Why is Under the Bridge by the Red Hot Chili Peppers so addictive? I'm going to talk about 5 key things that make this song work so well. And don't worry, I'm not going to give you the broad surface level observations like, I do like the chorus, it's wonderfully catchy, or it has a sick beat, man. No, we're going to get into real detail, and I promise you that even if you love this song and have heard it hundreds of times, you're still going to learn a few things and come away from this with a deeper appreciation of the song. And stick around until the end, where I'll announce today's song challenge. Alright, let's get into it. So here we have the song structure mapped out. We have the running time below, the different instruments on the side, and the different structural sections up the top. More broadly, we can group these into 3 larger sections: the intro, main section, and bridge. This is where we see the first interesting thing about the structure. It has an evolving structure. Now, what do I mean by evolving structure? Okay, you can see that there is no overlap in the content between these larger sections. Each section is self-contained. The smaller sections do not occur outside the larger sections. Once each large section finishes, it moves on, or evolves, to entirely new content and does not look back. For example, intros often function as hooks that come back later in the song, but that doesn't happen here. We get the intro at the beginning and never again. Similarly, while many songs have a bridge section, they usually return to the chorus afterward. Once again, that doesn't happen here. The chorus does not extend beyond the main section, which brings us to another interesting observation. The chorus only occurs twice. In most popular mainstream songs, the chorus occurs at least 3 or 4 times, sometimes even 5 or more times. If it only occurred once, it wouldn't be a chorus, because a chorus is a recurring section. So songs like Under the Bridge, which only have 2 choruses, are what I call minimal chorus songs. And they're relatively rare in mainstream music. They do have the effect of making you savor the chorus, if it's good, which it is in this case, and you're probably less likely to get sick of the song due to over repetition. As a result, you might need to hear it more times to get your fix of that killer chorus. The song structures its verses in a way that is very clever. If we divide the verses into 2 sections separated by the chorus, we can see that the verse, section A, is made up of 2 verses, but section B only has 1 verse. So this imbalance occurs in many songs, and it achieves 2 things. First, if things are too predictable structurally, they become boring. So by setting up the expectation for 2 verses in section A, and then breaking that expectation by only having the 1 verse before launching back into the chorus, it surprises us as listeners. It keeps us on our toes. Second, compressing the length of the second verse section creates a sense of momentum. We are getting through the sections quicker, so it feels like we're moving faster. This uneven verse structure is very common, so keep an ear out for it when you're listening to other songs. The song starts out with a single guitar and slowly builds up in both number of instruments and complexity. Look at how the instruments are introduced one by one. The intro just has a solo guitar, then the lead vocal is added in verse 1, next the drums join in verse 2, and finally the bass guitar in the first chorus. I liken the bass in this song to the monster in a well-made creature feature, like the original Alien and Predator movies. In these films, the monster is held back towards the beginning of the film. We only get teasers, maybe you see a tail or a shadow dart across the screen, and the creature is only fully revealed towards the end of the film. In the same way, the bass pops in briefly at the 53-second mark with 5 notes before disappearing again. It doesn't really make a proper entrance until the first chorus at 1 minute and 28 seconds. So apart from that 5-note tease, it is absent from the entire first third of the song. As for complexity, compare the simple guitar part in verse 1 to the more complex playing in part 2. Here's verse 1. And here's verse 2. In addition, listen to the simple drum part at the end of verse 1 compared to the more complex part at the end of verse 2. The end of verse 1. And the end of verse 2. On a more macro scale, the drummer uses a more restrained, softer touch in the main verse-chorus section. Specifically, he uses the snare side stick and the hi-hat. But in the bridge, he shifts to the stronger sounds of the snare and ride cymbal. You can hear this shift from lighter to stronger percussion at the end of the second chorus going into the bridge. In the bridge, we take a darker turn into more turbulent waters. This is where all the restraint exercised in the main section finally gives way. The dam wall cracks, so to speak. The drums are no longer holding back, and the bass lets loose with a much busier part. Then we get to the peak or climax of the song. If the beginning of the bridge section is a crack in the dam wall, the climax is where the floodgates really burst open. The organ appears and angelic sounding choir singers come in a call and response part with the lead singer, who finally references the titular bridge under which he gets high on heroin. The bridge section also marks a shift in key from E major to A minor, which brings us to the next thing that makes this song so interesting. One thing that makes the three main sections of this song so distinct is that they are all in different keys. The intro meanders back and forth between a D major chord and an F sharp major chord. These two chords don't really belong together in any common major or minor keys, so having them together results in no clear indication of a definite root chord or home key. So we are not committed to any particular key in this section. Instead, we are in an ambiguous kind of limbo. It feels like we're floating around up in the ether, searching for home. Is it D major? Is it F sharp major? Or something else? This contemplative, dreamy, searching feeling finally resolves itself by landing on an E major chord at the onset of the first verse. Interestingly, if you look at a chromatic scale, both D and F sharp are equal distances away from E. So E major is really the perfect compromise or middle ground between these two dueling chords. It's almost like two dimensions coalescing into one, or like a blurred vision coming into focus. Whoa, dude. That's so psychedelic. There are also two falling riffs which tie these chords together. The uncertainty and falling nature of the intro are both elements that return in different ways later on in the bridge. So the main section is in E major, and despite the lyrics centering on the somber themes of loneliness and addiction, harmonically, this section actually sounds quite positive and chill. The bridge signals a key change from E major to A minor, which has a darker feel to it. Furthermore, the repeating chord progression throughout the bridge features a shift from an A major chord to an A minor chord, indicating instability. This instability is also reflected in the wavering nature of the bridge lyrics. No, 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 yeah, yeah. So we have the A major chord and the A minor chord. We have the no, the yeah. Which is it? Where are we? What are we doing? It really creates tension. You'll also notice that the guitar chords are falling in this section. This is also mirrored in the descending vocal melody. No, no, yeah, yeah. The harmonic tension between the A major chord and the A minor chord is finally resolved on the last chord of the song, because it must rest somewhere, right? Major or minor? What is it? It's major. Now you can interpret the symbolism of ending on a major chord in many ways, but I prefer the interpretation of the final major chord symbolizing light at the end of the tunnel, hope, and a positive outcome in the battle against loneliness and addiction. What do you think? Let me know in the comments. Finally, while we're on the topic of chords, I couldn't not mention how beautiful those dreamy E major 7th chords are at the end of each verse. The vocal register used in the verses is basically the singer's normal speaking register. It has an almost conversational feel to it, like he's sitting down with you one-on-one, confiding his deepest, darkest secrets. This really creates an intimacy that I think would have been lacking if he had sung it higher. So he could have sung it up here. Sometimes I feel like I don't have a partner. But he sings it down here. Sometimes I feel like I don't have a partner. The fact that the singer is only accompanied by a single guitar further adds to this intimacy and vulnerability. The spotlight is clearly on him and there's nowhere to hide. The guitar generally avoids its lower range, especially the low E string, which opens up more real estate on the frequency range for the bass guitar to occupy. For example, in the verses, instead of playing the full chords, the guitar leaves out the root note of each chord. These are left for the bass to play in verse 3. Similarly, most guitarists would naturally play the chords in the bridge section like this. But the guitarist actually leaves out the notes on the lower two strings, creating more distance between the guitar and bass parts and less frequency overlap, which allows them to sit in their own pockets and complement each other really nicely. Now this certainly could be a happy accident resulting from the guitarist's unique style. However, having seen the guitarist and bass player in interviews, they both come across as very intelligent, thoughtful musicians, so I would not be surprised at all if this was very much a deliberate choice. The use of syncopated offbeat rhythms really elevate this song. This is the general vocal and guitar rhythm from the first verse. The vocal comes in on the offbeat, the second guitar chord comes in on the offbeat, and both the vocal and guitar finish together on two offbeats. Now, if the singer came in on the beat and the guitar played a straight rhythm, it would sound something like this. Sometimes I feel like I don't have a partner. Instead, they add syncopation and it sounds like this. Sometimes I feel like I don't have a partner. Hey man, that really grooves. A similar thing happens in the chorus, but this time it's not the vocal, but the instruments, guitar, bass and drums, that come in on the offbeat. If it were played straight, it would sound something like this. I don't ever wanna feel like I did that day. Take me to the place I love. Take me all the way. But they instead come in on the offbeat and add other syncopated rhythm. I don't ever wanna feel like I did that day. Take me to the place I love. Take me all the way. Oh, I like that so much better. Here's the kick drum and bass doing the same thing. Once again, in the bridge, the guitar could play the chords straight, but instead continues with syncopated rhythms. Now, I encourage you to go to the Red Hot Chili Peppers official YouTube channel and listen to Under the Bridge again in light of everything I've talked about. Here are the sections again and the times they start to help you skip between sections more easily. If you can think of anything I've missed that makes this song work so well, let me know in the comments. And last but not least, today's challenge. Today's challenge is to see if you can think of any other minimal chorus songs. That is, songs where the chorus only occurs twice. Let me know what you come up with in the comments, and like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video.
Excuse me, dear, could I trouble you for a cup of tea?
What do I think this song is about? I think it's about a troll.
On our holiday to Sydney, we went on a boat tour in the Sydney harbour, and we actually sailed right